Hello, everybody, and welcome to Numeril. It's your host, DamonNailer. We thank you for tuning in. We got a powerful show in store for you today, and it's called the Intersectionality of Spirituality, Mentality, and Physicality. What does all those big words mean? Just how there's an intersection between the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. And we have to comprehend this because sometimes we don't realize, or some people don't realize, that there's a whole entire spiritual world out there that exists and that we are under attack from unseen agents. And this piggybacks on the other two episodes we just had about the two spiritual kingdoms and how they were formed, how Satan was kicked out of heaven, he and his angels, and then how the procreation between the fallen angels and the women created the Nephilim, or the giants. And once they died, that created the unclean spirits, which are now a part of Satan's army here in the world. And so we're going to see how all of this connects over the next few sessions. The first revelation I want to share with you is that everything that occurs in life is either God orchestrated or God ordained. Let me say that again. Everything that occurs in life, everything that happens, is either God orchestrated or God allowed. So, in other words, God orchestrated means he initiates it. God allowed means he allows the devil to initiate it, but then he works things out. Like the Bible says, all things work together for good to them that are called according to his purpose, to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. So it's all about him being able to get goodness out of evil and bad things that occur. But either he orchestrates it or he allows it. And that's how everything goes, regardless of what happens. Either God started it and put into motion, or he allowed the devil to start it and put it into motion, but then he fixes it and he works it out. We're going to look at Job to kind of start this off in analyzing spiritual attacks. In Job 1, we're going to start at verse 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feared God and eschewed evil? Here, God is initiating this. He's poking at Satan. Okay, Satan, have you considered this servant here? So God wouldn't brag on you. God wouldn't bring you up to the devil if he didn't believe that you could make it and overcome and be victorious through any trial that the devil throws at you. So this is why he's doing this, but he's initiating this. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Did Job fear God for naught? In other words, does Job fear you for nothing? Thou not made an hedge about him, so you have protection around him. He's covered and protected, and about his house, his kids, his children, and all that he had on every side, all of his possessions, everything was covered. He had a hedge of protection. So God covers us and protects us. This is another revelation. Thou has blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Put forth your hand now and touch all that he had, and he will curse you to your face. So the first goal that Satan has, or the first target that Satan has, is that, hey, if you touch all that he has, then he's going to curse you to your face. The Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power, only upon himself put not forth your hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So he leaves God's presence, and then we're going to see what happens. Now, what I'm going to reveal to you in this lesson is what I call 3 rules of engagement when it comes to spiritual warfare. The first one is here. God determines what the devil can attack. We see that he just told them, and you can put forward and touch his things, just don't touch him. Okay, so the devil's first attacks on Job were on his possessions and his people, the 2 P's, possessions and people. And we're going to see that he went and attacked the animals, the servants, and his children. Okay, so that was the deal, and that's the area God said you can't attack. Remember this: a spiritual attack, but notice the manifestation. Remember, this is a spiritual attack, but notice the manifestation is physical. And I'm going to go bit by bit and show you how these things are naturally occurring, but at the root, it's spiritual. All right, or it occurs in the physical, but the beginning or the influence of where it's coming from is the spirit realm. So verse 13, and we're still in chapter 1, and there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. There came a messenger unto Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell upon them and took them away. Yeah, they have slain the servants which heir of the sword, and I'm the only escape alone to tell thee. So here we see Satan committing robbery and murder. All right. Remember, it's spiritual, but the manifestation in the physical is that he takes the guy's cattle, and then he kills all of the servants. All right. So that's the first thing, or his oxen. Verse 16, while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God has fallen from heaven and had burned up the sheet and the servants and consumed them. I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Natural disaster. We see fire falling from heaven. Now watch this connection. We know in the book of Revelation, a false prophet, he will be able to do the same thing, cause fire to come down from heaven in the front of people, which is something that Satan has the power to do. So he has control over natural disasters. Get that revelation. It's spiritual. It's not just things happening by themselves, but there's a spirit, an energy force, an unseen agent behind natural disasters. Verse 17, while he was just speaking, there came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So here we got robbery again, the Chaldeans this time, and murder. So robbery and murder. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So in the spirit realm, here's the devil killing people, robbing. Okay. And he's using people, physical people, to do this, but it's a spirit behind it. While he was just speaking, there came also another. Said, our sons and our daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house, and behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Another natural disaster. This time a whirlwind came, a great wind came from the wilderness. So hurricanes, tropical storms, tornadoes, these are spirits behind this. There are spirits behind this. Then Job arose and rent his mantle, shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground and worshiped. Said, naked I came out of my mother's womb, naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord had taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. And you got to lock that in. He didn't sin at all, it said. He sinned not. And all this, he didn't sin, and he didn't charge God foolishly. So then we go to the second chapter. We're going to start at verse 3. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feared God and escheweth evil. And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. So the Lord is saying, look, hey, have you still considered him? God is up in the ante. You went and did all you wanted to do. And notice he said, you're moving me against them. So God is not the one directly doing it. He's initiating it, but Satan is carrying it out. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. Yeah, all that a man had, he will give for his life. So remember, Satan attacked his position, his possessions, and his people. Now the devil is shifting it. He said, but put forth your hand now, touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. The Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in your hand, but save his life. So the Lord is Satan is getting the Lord to give him permission now to attack Job directly. All right. So now he's going to attack Job personally, the other P, which is personally and physically. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet unto his crown. So sickness and disease, we all automatically know, is from the devil. Spiritual attack, but it's affecting us physically. It also affects us mentally. Now Job, he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain your integrity? Integrity, curse God and die. Now this is critical here. The devil is speaking through Job's wife. It's evident through the phrasing, specific words she uses, which is what God mentioned, how Job was holding fast or retaining his integrity. So God said, he told Satan, hey, he's holding fast his integrity. So then Satan speaks through Job's wife and say, hey, curse God, why are you retaining your integrity? So that's what he's coming at. He's trying to get Job to fall down and losing his integrity in the midst of this trial. Just curse God. Give up on your dream. Give up on your hope. You know, you're going through so much. You're taking so many L's. You can't be God's servant. You can't be living right. Something is wrong. But Job, this is his response. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speak it. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. Aha. First time it said he didn't sin at all. But notice it specifically says he didn't sin with his lips. Was there possibly evil, sinful thoughts going through Job mentally or in his heart spiritually? I don't know about you, but when the fire gets hot sometimes, I argue with God. I fight with God, but at least it's just between me and him. I don't do it out in the public in front of others. You'll never know God and I have fallen out. You know, he gets on me. I talk to him sometimes. Hey, God, what's going on? You promised this. You said this. If you have a relationship with God, that's how it goes. It's not always peachy and creamy. You know, I try my best to walk in the victory and be happy and joyous, but sometimes behind closed doors, between God and I, we're getting it on. We're having some discussions and sometimes some debates. And that's what happens. That's a relationship. Now we're going to go all the way to the end of Job to see the end of what happens, because from basically chapter 3 on through the end of the Bible, through the end of Job, it's just the discussion, him going back and forth with his three friends, and they're saying all kind of crazy stuff for why he's getting attacked, and none of it was true because we see it was just a spiritual attack. It wasn't anything that he had done wrong. Sometimes you're going to get attacked and it's nothing you did wrong, nothing your kids did wrong, your spouse did wrong. It's just an attack on you, a spiritual attack. Job chapter 42. All right. So before we get into the scriptures, I want to give you the second and third rule of engagement. The second one is the Lord won't allow us to suffer trials and temptations above what we can handle. And in 1 Corinthians, it tells us that he won't suffer us to be tempted above what we can be tempted in. But with the temptation, make a way to escape. Bible says, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptation, knowing that the trying of your faith work in patience, but let patience have a perfect work so you can be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So we are supposed to get happy when we fall into diverse temptations, because the more temptations we go through, that means the stronger God believes we are and that we can handle it. So that's the second rule of engagement. The third one is our trials and temptations have a set time period. At the end, God brings us out into glory, as in prosperity and blessings, or sickness unto death. We know in the New Testament, when Jesus would heal people, they would say, hey, he's sick or she's sick. He'll say, well, it's not a sickness now unto death. In other words, it wasn't the sickness that was going to take them out. So in some cases, you know, if we're sick and it's the last days, sometimes that next God bringing us out is God bringing us into glory. If we know God and we're in Christ and we're walking uprightly, then the promotion, it's a promotion to glory. And I know we don't want to die. We don't like to lose people, but heaven is better. Heaven is much better, okay? So that is a form of glory and God bringing us out if we're sick unto death. But other than that, he'll heal us, then he'll cause us to prosper and he'll bless us. So let's see what happens with Job. Verse 10 for chapter 42, verse 10. And the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. Also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then came down to him all his brethren, all his sisters, and all that had been of his acquaintance before. Indeed, they eat bread with him in the house, and they bemoaned him and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. So the Lord sent it, but the devil brought it to his house, okay? So it came from the Lord. Your trials and tribulations, in many cases, is coming from the Lord. Every man also gave him a piece of money, and everyone an earring of gold. So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep. He had 7,000 before, 6,000 camels. He had 3,000 before, 1,000 yoke of oxen. He had 500 before, and 1,000 she asses. He had 500 before. So he gave him double, like they say, he gave him double for his trouble. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he called the name of the first Jemima, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuk. And in all the land there were no women found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance among their brethren. After this, Job lived 140 years, and he saw his sons, and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So he saw to his great grandsons. And then Job died being old and full of days. So we see that in the end, God blessed Job. And just like us, if we persevere through the trials in the end, in some kind of way, God is going to bless us. I was just telling somebody, a group actually recently in a speaking engagement, that in life, sometimes we take a lot of L's. But the one revelation God has showed me is that, say, for instance, if you have 25 games in a season, if you go 13 out of 12, if you win 13 out of the 15 games, right? I mean, 13 out of the 25 games, then that means you are a winner. Although you had one more win than all your losses, you are still a winner. And I'm here to tell you, regardless of how you may be losing, you may be in a losing season where it looks like everything is going wrong. Every door is closing. Nothing is happening in your favor. It looks like this opposition and adversity is against you. But I'm here to tell you that there's going to come a shift. And there's going to come a shift where you're going to start winning again. There are many times when championship teams, they'll win one year, next year or the next few years, they'll have losing seasons, but then they'll bounce back and return to dominance. The same thing is with you and I. We're not always on a mountaintop, but we are not always in a valley. And life is always about shifts and changes, and just God just, bringing you low, bringing you high, bringing you mid. You never know what position you're going to be in, but the key is to keep God as your constant, to anchor yourself in Him, to make sure you're prepared and you fix yourself as best as you can, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, and let God take care of the rest. But I'm here to tell you that many of our attacks, some things are because of our neglect and sin. That's easy to take care of. But sometimes it's just God testing us. But we have to know that this stuff is spiritual. It's not just things happening. It's just accidents. It's all incidents, and it's all happening. Either it's orchestrated by God or it's being allowed. But either way it go, is coming from God. But we want to be able to understand those rules of engagement for the trials, knowing that, hey, the devil, whatever he's attacking, God is allowing it, and that the Lord won't put any more on us than we can bear. He won't suffer us to be tempted in any trial or temptation that we can't beat. And that, hey, there's a set time period for any trials and tribulations that you're going through. And at some point they do end. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we check out the show notes there. We got the upcoming webinar this Saturday. Sign up for the G3 journey. Hey, if you want to bless us, be a blessing. We will see you each week. We got some more word for you, so be blessed in Jesus' name.